is a reservoir in Spain. 84% empty. You can see the paddle boats and water slides abandoned nearby. Aquatic life driven to death. The reason? Climate change. Spain had its hottest July since 1961. Some parts of the Iberian Peninsula are at their driest in 1200 years. Let that sink in. 1200 years. Now for the next set of pictures. What you sand plains? What if I told you those are not plains? What you're looking at is a dried up river. Not a single drop of water remains. All the tourist boats have been beached as a result. The restaurants nearby have nearly shut. The reason? Our next set of pictures will give you an idea. Wildfires are raging across southwestern France. Nearly 6,000 hectares of forests have been burnt. This blaze follows two wildfires in the month of July. Put together, they scorched more than 20,000 hectares. What do these pictures tell you? A crisis of biblical proportions. You've seen the pictures, now let me show you the data. 63% of Europe's rivers are drying, the reservoirs barely have any water left. And the situation is the same across the continent. Southern England had its driest July since 1836. Overall, it was Britain's driest July in 20 years. The government has declared amber alert for the next 4 days. Temperatures are so high in Spain, France and the UK. Now remember, we're talking about Europe. Their summers are supposed to be pleasant and cheery. It's supposed to be the travel season. Instead, Europe is literally baking. As you see, rivers in Europe are not just vital ecosystems, they're transport routes. They carry around 1 ton of freight per citizen every year. Total value more than $80 billion, 80. But right now, those rivers look like this. Their main priority is ensuring drinking water. Reports say 100 French municipalities are short of drinking water. Italy has declared a drought emergency. Water rationing has been announced in cities like Verona and Pisa. Rice production has been hit. Farmers are unable to produce enough rice for the famous Italian risotto. The Netherlands has declared a nationwide water shortage. People have been asked to take quicker showers, also not to wash their cars or water their gardens. In Germany, all the focus is on the Rhine. It is the financial heartbeat of Germany. You see, the Rhine requires a basic water level to support shipping. If it falls below that, ships cannot pass. Germany says it is days away from falling below that level. Freight ships are already sailing at 20. This is where the Oder River is located on the map. It is some 840 kilometers long. The river runs from the Czech Republic, flows along the border between Germany and Poland, and then flows into the Baltic Sea. This river has been poisoned. Fish of all shapes and sizes have been killed. Their carcasses are floating on the surface of the river. Troops have been called in to help to fish out these dead fish. Poland alone has deployed some 2,000 police officers, 300 firefighters and 200 soldiers. Boats are being used, so are quad bikes, dams and drones. Over 100 tons of dead fish have been recovered so far. And this may just be the start. So what exactly is happening here? No one knows for sure. It is a mystery, one that Poland wants its people to solve. They've announced a reward of $220,000 to anyone who helps find the perpetrators. The hunt is on. There was an increase in water pollutants. It is also possible that the water salinity had increased. This happens when temperatures rise, the water dries up, and the salt level of the remaining water increases. Possibility number 2 is industrial waste. Samples from the river show evidence of harmful chemicals. But what Poland is going after is the possibility of arson. Someone or some industry could have poisoned the river, killed all the fish, and triggered an ecological tragedy. Germany has asked its citizens to not bathe in the Oder or fish in it. Both Germany and Poland are now on alert. They say they're working together to clean up the river and dispose the dead fish. Animals perish in Canada. Some were baked alive, some charred to death in their natural habitat. Tons of dead fish were also spotted on Spain's shores last year. Over 40 tons of dead fish were also fished out in Lebanon. In some cases, it was climate change. In some, it was polluted water. The villain of the Oder River is still at large, though.
This morning, the UK also coping with unprecedented heat and dangerous consequences. Record-setting temperatures topping 104 degrees, fueling raging fires across London. This massive residential blaze forcing evacuations and taking firefighters hours to extinguish. One neighbor trying to stop the flames with a garden hose. The sweltering heat gripping a nation not equipped for extreme temperatures, catching many American tourists off guard.
We're just going to suffer through it because we're here for 2 days.
Train tracks buckling and runways melting, disrupting services across England. Millions suffering in a nation where most don't have air conditioning. But climate experts say this kind of scorching heat could become reasons to flee their homes. This fire in Spain stopping a train in its tracks. A similar situation in Italy and in France, where more than 30,000 acres of wine country are burning, while extinguished flames are revealing the extent of the devastation. In the capital, Parisians desperate for release from the record-breaking temperatures, but this heat wave that's frying Europe doesn't seem to be stopping anytime soon.
Yeah, now temperatures have decreased here a little bit in London, but look, we know this heat wave is far from over. It is heading to Belgium and Germany, where folks there are bracing for record-setting temperatures of 104 degrees. Craig?
Take a look at where we're going to see our high temperatures today. Warmest down through Texas, but 90s right through the middle of the country. And really, it's just 80s, 90s, and 100s in the forecast across the United States today. 219 million people will see temperatures at 90 degrees or higher. 44 million people will see temperatures above 100 degrees. And that's just the air temperature. When you factor in the humidity, it makes it so brutal to be outside. You really need to stay in the air conditioning as much as you can. Record highs, near record highs expected all through the weekend. All of these red dots are cities where we are expecting those record temperatures, including the Northeast, even the interior Northeast as well. So take a look at some of the numbers today. With the heat index, Little Rock will feel like 115, St. Louis 101, Indianapolis 104, Birmingham, Alabama will feel like 103. In the Northeast, we're going to see that heat in Philadelphia close to 100, feeling close to 100 in New York City. Manchester, New Hampshire will feel like it's 96 degrees. Syracuse will feel like 100 degrees. And then tomorrow, we're still going to have those heat indices up around 100 to 105 degrees. And you head back down to the southwest into parts of Texas, into Oklahoma, Arkansas, it's still going to feel like it's above 105 degrees, Craig.
Of London. Some reports say it started an explosion in a scrapyard and then has spread to the tinder-dry grassland, setting fields ablaze. And as you can see for yourself, that's a row of garages, it seems, on fire. Several homes also, the previous shot we had for you, several homes have been destroyed and are still burning in the blaze. Also a church, and it seems that there are a number of fires there burning throughout that area. Clearly, firefighters have been able to extinguish some of them, but still a lot of work to do, it seems. Well, let's get the very latest on it all with Jonathan Smith, Assistant Commissioner at the London Fire Brigade, joins us from Central.
Ultimately 100 firefighters on scene. The situation remains very dynamic. It's obviously spread out over a wide area. The conditions that our fire crews are extremely arduous because of the temperatures that we're currently facing. This was one incident amongst many that London fire crews have been facing throughout today, which was the reason we declared a major incident earlier this afternoon. We were dealing with not only this incident in Wennington, but a substantial incident near Upminster. And across the capital, we've been dealing with a number of grassland and woodland type fires that have been started as a result of the particular heat wave that we're facing at the moment and the fact that the ground is so tinderbox dry. So our resources today have been under significant pressure, which was part of the reason for declaring the major incident earlier today. What I should say, though, to provide reassurance, is that the London Fire Brigade is still responding to emergency calls.
Could I add in, perhaps if they spot even a small blaze, some smouldering going on in a piece of grass, it may seem trivial at that point, but would it be worth reporting on the basis that, given how tinder dry, given the conditions that you describe, that could easily spread? For it's not just all buildings and tarmac, which I imagine is harder to set on fire. You're in danger of getting these situations developing where something can develop in the woodland or in the grass and then spread to buildings from there.
Well, interestingly, London's actually one of the sort of greenest cities in Europe in terms of the amount of green space that there is, even in central London. So you're right to point to the fact that the suburbs tend to have more grassland, more fields, more woodland. But actually, we do see significant areas of green spaces in central London as well. So at first, it may appear that wildfire and grassland fires in particular are not always a major issue for urban brigades like London Fire Brigade. Actually, that's not the case. We do have significant areas of green areas in central London and on the outskirts. So it's very much a clear and present threat for us to make sure that we're prepared and ready to respond to these incidents as and when they occur.
And just to be very clear for us, I just want to revisit the declaration of a major incident, Assistant Commissioner. What does that mean in practice? What are the ramifications of it? Of course, it tells the public how serious the situation is. You've already said that there is no then knock-on danger to the existing cover and safety that the fire service provide for us. But what does it mean in terms of resources for you? Do you bring people back from a day's leave? Do you have access to other forces, other parts of the emergency services to help out?
This is the situation in southern Iraq, where a drought is devastating the mythical Mesopotamian marshes. Add climate change to the bag.
Another 17% of Europe could see its vegetation under stress due to lack of water. Farmers in France have already turned to tap water to feed their livestock after streams have been running dry.
Unprecedented droughts and heat waves have put water scarcity into sharp focus. Worldwide, more than 2 billion people lack access to clean water, and climate change is likely to increase the frequency of extreme weather events. Here's a look at the impact that water scarcity is having in countries around the world right now. Drought is ravaging northern Mexico, where farm animals are dying from a lack of water. Harvests have been disrupted and fisheries culled as the country experiences one of its worst droughts in over 30 years. In Hungary, severe drought has turned lakes into muddy pits. Low water supplies are putting wildlife at risk, and farmers in the worst affected regions are struggling to find enough green pasture to feed their livestock. Drought has also dried up much of China's largest freshwater lake. The Poyang Lake connects to the Yangtze River and has been reduced to a quarter of its usual size. As water levels continue to drop,
that springs from here. Scientists say this huge water reserve will likely soon run dry. Researchers from China and the US conducted measurements in the mountainous region and analyzed satellite pictures of the Tibetan Plateau. Much of the water here is stored as ice and snow. When the glaciers disappear due to rising temperatures, so will the stream of meltwater that feeds the rivers. Predictions are bleak. Around 230 gigatons of water could be lost. That's enough to fill over 90 million Olympic-sized swimming pools, if CO2 emissions are not radically and rapidly reduced. The researchers add that more alternative water supply sources like wells and even pipelines may be necessary to meet the shortage in the not-too-distant future. But it's unclear if that will be enough to sustain the hundreds of millions of people who depend on the plateau's rivers.
In 1976, they peaked just shy of 36 degrees Celsius. It took 27 years to top that record, but things are speeding up. 16 years after that was another new record. And here we are, only 3 years later, and we're at 40 degrees Celsius. And tens of thousands of people evacuated. North of Athens in Greece, green hills were covered in smoke as authorities reported 39 wildfires in just 24 hours. Some residents were so close to the fires, they found it hard to breathe. In Spain, more than 30 wildfires continue to ravage parts of the country as climate scientists continue to warn world leaders about the urgent need to cut emissions. These fires have made sure the issue is front and centre for the time being. Azadeh Mashiri, BBC News.